Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. This episode, we have Netflix's 244th film from 2020. It's the Japanese anime romantic fantasy film A Whisker Away, or Nakitai, watashi wa neko o kaburu. It's directed by Junichi Sato and Tomotaka Shibayama, and it stars Mirai Shida, Natsuki Hanae, and Hiroaki. I'm Jesse. I'm writing solo for this episode on a Netflix original film, as always. Sorry for the pronunciation on some of those names, but not fluent in Japanese, obviously, but obviously an international film for us to look at today, so I'm a little bit excited. We do kick off our show with the Fast Flicks, where we do a quick summary of what the film is all about. But before I do that, spoiler alert, if you want to check this one out, give us a pause, come back later on, because the Fast Flicks is a quick little summary, and this one is about a girl transforming into a cat to get closer to her crush. Intriguing. Hopefully it intrigues you a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about how this one ended up on Netflix. So realistically, we're seeing this a lot with the films at the moment that we're covering, but the film was scheduled for release in Japanese theatres on the 5th of June of 2020, but was pulled from the schedule due to the COVID-19 pandemic. It was then sold to Netflix, who released it digitally on the 18th of June 2020, so not a big turnaround there. On September 18 of 2020, it was announced that the film would then have a limited theatrical run in Japan until October of 2020, and then released on Blu-ray and DVD in Japan from June 2021. So a little bit of a mixed release throughout the world, but Netflix hold the rights to this one across the world. This one was, as I said, released on Netflix on the 18th of June 2020. It was animated in Japan, as we can probably gather, in Tokonami, in the Aichi province as well. So this was nominated for a few awards. It did win Best Animated Program or Series at the Asian Academy Creative Awards in 2020. And it was also nominated at the Anime Trending Awards for Anime Movie of the Year and for Couple of the Year as well in that category. Translations across the world. In Japan, the direct translation is I want to cry, I wear a cat. So that makes a lot of sense once we talk a little bit more about this film. In Spanish, it was called Cat Love. In French, it was called Far From Me, Near You. In Italian, it was called Mio, who's our main character, Feline Love. In Portuguese, Cats Cry Too. In Russian, it was called Through My Tears, I Pretend to Be a Cat. And in Chinese, If I Want to Cry, I Put on a Cat Mask. And that is obviously leading to where we're going to talk about this idea of a human transforming into a cat and the consequences, I guess, of that transformation at times. What are the critics and audiences saying about this one? So, on Rotten Tomatoes, it sits on 93%. That's on 15 reviews, so definitely fresh there. The audience has it a little bit lower on 76%. That's on more than 100 ratings. IMDb, pretty solid, on a 6.7 out of 10 on nearly 12,000 ratings. Letterboxd, a little bit high as well. It's a 3.5 out of 5 on 118,800 ratings. Huge, actually logged by 157,000 people. So a lot of people obviously like their anime films on Letterboxd. The other one I'll add here for this, obviously it's an anime film. There's a website called My Anime List. On that one, it sits on a 7.3 out of 10. And that's on 242,000 ratings. That's a lot. A lot of people have watched this film, which is good for Netflix, I guess, and they're making these types of films, because we have done a couple in the past. If I go back and think about Blam, which was a long time ago, but yeah, we've definitely covered a Japanese anime before. What are my early thoughts? I think I like anime films. I don't watch them religiously, but I enjoy them when I do watch them. This one, it was a little bit out there, but it had good heart, a nice message, and enough to keep me engaged throughout. So positive from me as well. Let's talk about the characters in this one. So let's start off with Mio, or Muge. This is our central character, and a little bit of a frustrating character at times. Very over the top. This high school girl who would probably annoy the living daylights out of me in real life. She's got this one close friend who everyone sort of admires for actually staying friends with her, Yoji, and often tries to get Muge to tone down her feelings for this character Hinode, who's our other main character we'll talk about in a minute. But if we're talking about Muge, her parents have split. Her mum barely communicates with her. She's living with her dad and his new partner, Karu, who Muge is pretty horrible towards, but she isn't afraid to speak her mind. But in saying that, she, for some reason, can't tell a guy that she actually likes him. And that guy, Hanae, who I mentioned before, a bit of an interesting character. He's sort of lonely after losing his pet dog, replaces it with this pet cat almost, which is Taro, who is Muge in disguise. And, you know, he's dealing with these teenage issues too, I guess, where he wants to do pottery like his grandfather does, but he doesn't know how to address it with his family because they sort of want him to succeed in life and not do that. And especially because this studio that his grandfather's working in, they have to close it down. He has this annoying sister as well who's sort of like crushing on this worker at the pottery barn with him. And apart from that, you know, his real issue, I guess, is that he isn't open with his communication like Muge is, whereas Muge is over the top. He's sort of reserved and is a bit afraid to explain how he's actually thinking. The only other real characters to talk about, there's this guy called the Mask Seller, and he's sort of the villain of the story, and he offers this temptation of being a cat. So people can get closer to other people, I guess, as a pet, as a cat, and he sort of does some villainous things throughout the film. And I mentioned before Kaburu as well, the stepmom of Muge. Seems like a lovely person, sort of becomes more intertwined with this story, and this is a bit of a spoiler, but her pet cat takes on Muge's body towards the end, Kanako, so sort of becomes more entwined in the story and sort of allows Muge to actually transform and be a little bit nicer as well. The directors, for this one, so Junichi Sato has got 58 directing credits, best known for his work on Evangelon. And then Tomotaka Shibayama, only 4 directing credits, but it's worked on films like Spirited Away and The Girl Who Leapt Through Time. So some big anime films that most people would be aware of and know of, which is pretty, I guess, a nice thing to hear. Scenes. Let's talk about some scenes. Really hard in animated films to sort of identify scenes that you're really a big fan of, I guess. But for me, I think there's a scene where, I guess I'll call it a cat fight between Muge's stepmom and mum. I thought that was quite funny and humorous in the moment when it appeared in the film. And the other thing that I thought was cool was towards the end of the film, Muge ends up going to this cat island. It was really cool, especially this human bar that she goes to and the advice and the stories that they tell Muge too. I like that too. Only a couple of things I wasn't a big fan of, I guess. I think there's a scene where Muge jumps off a balcony at school to stand up for Hanae. I thought it was a pretty extreme way to stand up for someone that you've got a crush on. The other way too, I guess, was that she wrote this letter for Hanae to sort of express her feelings a bit more, and the boys in the class read it out loud, and it just sort of made me feel a bit sad that we still have to see that sort of thing happen on the screen. The only other thing, the idea that Muge, as the cat, Taro, like smells like the sun, and Hanae keeps talking about that. I thought that was a little bit weird too. How do you know what the sun smells like? It's a bit weird. But in saying that, let's talk about some themes and some ideas, because this one covers off quite a lot. And obviously this idea of wearing a mask to be a cat, to get closer to other people, like it goes closely with identity. And you know, the mask that you wear in public can often disguise your true feelings and your true reactions to what's actually happening in life, and you can throw in these temptations to take the easy way out and sort of run from your problems by wearing this mask. So I like that sort of commentary as well. There's a bit about difference in here too, and the acceptance of difference, especially through the idea of crushes, I guess, and sometimes how you don't act appropriately and you act a little bit different, and you can confuse that idea of reality with fantasy at times. So that's a little bit interesting, as well as, you know, in this film I mentioned through some of the scenes there's a bit of bullying, and I think Muge is quite depressed and lonely at times, and we sort of see that through Hanae as well, and they're the issues that are faced by teenagers. So that was an interesting way of doing that, and finally the idea of family dynamics in this too. The feeling of abandonment by Muge when the mum leaves, and the way that she treats her stepmom Karu as well, and the judgment even by people in society in the film. There's a scene where there's this old lady who sort of, you know, confronts Muge on the street about, you know, the dad being with someone new, and is she being fed and things like that, and that idea of escaping reality again as well. What did I take away from this one? I think I get the style of anime scores and soundtracks. This one, for me, it was quite over the top, dramatic and painful at times. It sort of took away from my viewing experience, as it was sort of a little bit off-putting. So that's all I'm going to say there. But I think I'm ready to wrap it up. We give the film a rating out of 5 to come up with a Flix Forum score. For me, like I said, the animation was beautiful in this. I think at times the story is a little bit weird, but I think it was interesting enough, and sort of covered off a lot of good themes that I sort of touched on there as well. And I probably recommend this film. So I'm giving it a 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5, solid score from me. We've got socials, we've got Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Give us a follow, give us a like if you can, jump on there. question I wanted to put out there this week to go along with our social media post is, have you ever been over the top towards a crush? Interesting question. I can't honestly say that. I've been happily with my partner for a long time now, but has anyone ever been too over the top with a crush? Let us know if you're not too embarrassed to share. As always, we're back next week with another film from 2020. This one is a family dance comedy drama called Feel the Beat. It's directed by Alyssa Down and it stars Sodia Carson, Enrico Colantonio, Donna Lynn Champlin, and Wolfgang Novogratz. Interesting. Haven't heard of this one. Got no idea what it's like. So looking forward to checking that out next week. As always, thanks for listening along. Thanks for keeping me company. And I'll see you next week.